Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us at our first budget meeting of the 23, 24 school year. Right? Is that right? Yep. And I just wanted to start off saying that budget time is always a time to show your values, right? So if you value it, you budget for it. So thank you. There is a series of meetings scheduled, but we'll get to that later. Who am I turning over? Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Our agenda for the night was an introduction by Ms. Hoff. We'll go over the 23-24 school calendar. We'll take a look at the 3-year expenditure analysis, the 3-year revenue analysis, overview of the known projected expenditure increases. And then we'll go over the 23-24 budget calendar and then the motions that will be on the agenda for the December board meeting. And for the school district calendar, I will turn it over to Ms. Seward.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Danielle Seward, Executive Director of Student Services, and it's really nice to be here with you this evening. What you see before you on this slide is a comparison of the 2023-2024 calendar and our current school district calendar for this year, 2022-2023. You'll notice that the number of days is basically the same and that there is one change where we, in addition to the holidays that we added this year, we're adding one more for next year, which is Indigenous Peoples Holiday. There are no deletions. We are keeping the half days that we have this year in our calendar. They will continue into next calendar. And so if you could click on the link so we can give them a little view of the calendar. Oh, it's small.
You meant
It's a little small, but what you will notice is that the layout is a little bit different. The layout is a little bit easier to see and for each one of the months. We put the different items that are happening in each month right next to the month. So it just is a little bit easier on the eye, easier to navigate the document. And if you scroll to the bottom, you'll notice that there is a little key, color-coded key that explains what the colors are. Bob, are you able to scroll to the bottom? There you are. Keep going. There you go. So there's your legend there that kind of lays out what the colors are and what they mean. And it also gives you a nice little summary of all of the days. And so with that, I guess we'll come out of this. And if anybody has any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Looks good, Ms. Seward. I wonder if we shouldn't have half days on both sides after those bullets, just because that was the question that dinged in my head. Oh, are the half days gone?
Yep. Here you go.
Yeah. But thank you for continuing our efforts regarding equity and adding Indigenous People Day.
You're very welcome. And it was important to us to try and, signal that we acknowledge that in the past we were going nonstop from the beginning of the school year all the way to Thanksgiving. And so folks just need a little break in there. And so we built that in and tried to make it, as doable as possible and still give people breaks.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so with that, we will continue on to the 3-year expenditure comparison. As you can see, from 21 to 22, the overall difference was about $4 million, which had to do with the increase in ESSER funding from ESSER 1 to ESSER 2. Other than that, things were relatively consistent. And I know you guys had a chance to, or the board had a chance to review this. Does anybody have any questions related to the 3-year expenditure?
Not at this time.
Not this time. Okay. Yes, and as
Okay,
we
anyone on the board have any questions? All right. Don't be shy if I'm not calling on you, please
okay.
wave or yell.
So yes, as we have more meetings, we'll get into more detail of these numbers, but for now, this is the overall presentation. And 21-22 is still just the projected numbers, since our audit has not been finalized just yet. They're done their testing and pretty confident the numbers are accurate, but they're technically not final. So
Got it.
same thing with the revenues, comparable increases from year to year, relatively consistent in each category. The so there's
This
sorry, go ahead.
does this include this doesn't seem to show, or maybe it does, the 5 million we got from the state.
I think that would be for the 22-23 school year.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yes, so this is reflective again, the 21-22 technically not finalized, but very accurate. They just need to go dot their I's and cross their T's before they can finalize the report.
I'm assuming we'll see Mr. Edmond at a meeting soon.
Yes, hopefully the January Budget and Finance Committee meeting
Okay,
next
awesome.
month. So any questions related to the revenue analysis? Seeing none, we'll move on. This is the year-to-date expenditures for the current school year as of October 31st, 2022. As you can see, most categories are around 30% usage, which is kind of in line with the progress of the school calendar at that time. So I believe we are on track. And this coincides with the budget and finance treasurer's reports that are given monthly. So it should be comparable to the October BNF numbers.
And in a future meeting, we'll look at this with encumbrances.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so if there are no questions about the expenditures to date, we'll move on to the projected increase. Our first look for the Delaware County Healthcare Trust was that there will be a 6.76% increase to healthcare costs for the overall plan. The second look should come in March, so hoping that comes down a little bit, but as of right now, it's 6.76%. PSERS has a 1.22% increase planned, so the rate will go from 35.26 to 35.69. That's something that the district is obligated to participate in by, I believe, state law. The MNOW contract with Airmark is up for renewal, so we're not sure yet what the price will be for that, if it will be same as this year or a slight increase or anything like that, depending on how we tailor that contract. Same thing with First Student Transportation, DCCC, about a $4,000 increase. IU and VOTEC, we're still waiting to hear from them. Collective bargaining agreements, the Act 93 and SSO groups are in discussions, and then the increases for WPE, SPA, and WPEA are in the contracts that were approved last year and the year before, I believe. So that's a lot to digest. Does anybody have any questions related to those figures that we are sure of at this point? Okay, seeing none, move on. Attached is the budget calendar that was approved at the November 28th, 2022 meeting. I'm not gonna, I can click into it if everybody would like to see it, but I was more here for informational purposes since it was already approved. Ms. Hoff, would you prefer if I open that or?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I could just highlight some key dates upcoming, which you'll see on the next slide. The board needs to vote on a resolution whether to allow to exceed or not exceed the 6.1% Act 1 index. The Budget Advisory Council needs to be identified next month. If we do not vote to not exceed the 6.1% index, then there will need to be a preliminary budget voted on by January 23rd. And then the next big deadline or next big events are in April when we get the numbers in from the states related to the property tax relief and the property tax relief revenues. And then later on in May and June when we need to adopt the proposed final budget and the final budget.
School board directors, save yourself double booking and feel free to put those dates in your calendar right now. Thank you so much.
And we will also be asking you shortly to identify individuals that you want to serve on the BAC. That would be your community representative. So that information is coming shortly as well.
Yes, thanks, Dr. Jacobs.
That'll be awesome.
May I ask, what is the equation that the state used for the index amount? How?
That's a good question.
That's a great question. I don't know exactly how it works, but I know it has to do with the median income of the boroughs or townships, in our case boroughs, that feed into your district. The recent increases over the past few years that you've taken. I know there's more factors, but I can't think of them off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's a super good question, Ms. Richardson. And it's always truthfully been a little hocus pocus to me,
Yeah.
but we've never gone over the numbers, so.
Okay, because I know I've been seeing the index, the 6.1%, that's the index. It's usually what, 3.4, something like that.
Yeah, around there, yes, that's a correct recollection.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think inflation is also another factor.
Okay,
And the
okay.
9% inflation last year, I think that's another reason why it's higher, but I can look that up and get back to you with that if you'd like. with more
Yes,
detail.
well, inflation, that would make sense, yes.
Mhm.
And next you can figure out how they figure out the slots money and you'll be all
Yeah.
set.
Yeah, and the BEF.
Oh, boy.
Okay, any other questions related to the proposed budget? Well, I guess now it's the adopted budget calendar. Okay,
Miss Ivory, do you have any questions, Mr. Tong, Mr. Callahan, Miss Cook Henry?
No,
No, not at this time.
Thank you so much.
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you.
okay, so below are the details for the two, I guess, a motion and the resolution that will be presented at the board meeting on December 19th. As I previously mentioned, the I guess the resolution or the adoption or the authorization, the two options for the Act 1 index. This is the excuse me. This is the entire resolution that will be presented. Essentially, though, It comes down to whether or not we're voting whether to exceed or not exceed the 6.1% index. It's what it really summarizes to. Sorry about that. The second, there's Act 52 was passed over the summer in July, I believe. And essentially it says it's required for us to adopt the resolution. But the gist of it is that if there are qualifying events for taxpayers and they file the correct forms, that we will not charge late fees or penalties for the collection of their taxes. And here's the entire resolution for that.
Is the resolution's new, Mr. Kaufman?
For the Act 57, correct?
And
Yes. Sorry about that.
and we cannot, if people are late on their taxes, we can't.
So they have to have a qualifying event. I'm not exactly sure what the definition of, I know it's in here somewhere. Tell me either. I would have to honestly read more into
Okay.
the particulars of Act 57. I do know there's a bunch of requirements that the taxpayer has to go through in order for that to happen. I don't think it's just waiving all penalties and fees for everybody if they choose.
Okay,
But I can get back to you with more detail on that.
yeah, that's fine. I would just want to educate the citizens also.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it looks like if there was a transfer deed and they weren't notified of the tax bill being due, that they can fill out a waiver request to waive the charges.
Okay,
But to be sure, I will research that and provide an update.
great. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Any
There-
questions? Are we? That's the end of it, Mr.?
Yes. I was gonna ask if there were any additional questions, but you're free to take it.
No, any questions from anyone?
Not at this time.
All right. Thank you so much. It's start thinking about the people you want on the budget citizen committee. I think it's really thoughtful work. Everyone that I've recommended has really enjoyed it and, sort of felt a part of the process. So that's nice. Thank you for that, Dr. Beekert. Hang on tight. It's a long, arduous process to do the budget. Many things to consider, as we've talked about in education meetings. So we look forward to productive conversations. How to best provide for our young people.
And Ms. Hoff, if I could, I would just like to thank Mr. Kaufman for filling in the last 2 nights. He's led not only the property committee meeting, but the financing committee meeting in Jeff's absence. So I just want to say thank you, Bob. It's greatly appreciated.
Thanks. Yes, and thank you for dealing with my rust in presentations. I appreciate that.
All is good. Well, thank you, team, and have a pleasant evening.
Good night.
Good night.
All right.